Does it have a name?
Yeah, her name is Jersey.
Jersey?
Cute.
You
want to pet Jersey?
I'm scared.
Where do I pet it?
You can pet her on the head if you want to.
Hi, Jersey.
Hi. Wow.
Oh, so
large.
soft. You feel good, Jersey.
Back in August, on a much warmer day than today in New York, my colleagues Elisa, Anna, and I partook in a time-honored political tradition,
Deep-fried pickle dogs.
the Iowa State Fair.
Bacon-wrapped rib on a stick.
Oh, now we're cooking.
And we leaned all the way in. Days full of food,
We used to play some games, too.
fun,
Excuse me. What are y'all waiting in line for? Butter stuff. Oh.
a cow sculpted out of 600 pounds of butter,
Wow, I just really walked through that samples and had 3 different types of meat in 5 seconds.
even more food.
A lamb chop, a pork chop.
Lamb?
Yeah, that was lamb. And brisket, all in the walk.
Wow.
Love Iowa.
Here I was thinking it was just
And good old-fashioned retail politics.
Yeah. Love Iowa.
If it's not clear by now, I've been trying to figure out how best to cover a very unusual presidential primary, one that has been dominated by Donald Trump, despite his legal troubles. And when it comes to Iowa, the first state to vote, the big question is why all of Trump's challengers to this point have struggled to even threaten his lead in the polls. Iowa was supposed to be fertile ground for that. It's a disproportionately evangelical state that was expected to coalesce around a more faith-driven alternative to Trump. But that's not what's happened. By the time we arrived in Des Moines, Trump was polling at around 42% in Iowa, nearly 20% more than the share of voters he got in 2016, when he finished second in the caucuses. Now, his lead has only continued to grow. And increasingly, it looks like rather than giving momentum to Trump alternatives, Iowa might be the state to coronate him. So when I went to the fair, it was less to follow around a bunch of candidates who were milking a cow or flipping a pork chop, but instead to ask Iowa's voters, what's different this time?
All right, you can step on that there for me.
Thank you.
I'm already scared.
From the New York Times and the Top Gun ride in Thrillville,
Got it.
Strapped in.
I'm Ested Herndon. This is The Run-Up.
Hey, how are y'all? My name's Ested. This is Elisa. We're from the New York Times. We're talking to people about the Iowa State Fair and kind of what they think about it, what brought them here. We're also talking to people about the presidential primary. Do y'all have maybe 5-10 minutes we can chat?
We started at the fair on the 5th day. At this point, Vivek Ramaswamy had already rapped to Eminem, and former Vice President Mike Pence, who was then still in the race, had been heckled by Trump supporters, easily spotted throughout the fairgrounds in their red MAGA hats.
I don't care.
we don't know each other.
No.
I saw
I was just sitting here and she wanted to sit down.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll all get to know each other at the same time. How are y'all doing?
Great.
Are y'all from Iowa?
I'm from Cedar Falls, Iowa.
What
I'm
number?
West Des Moines.
From West Des Moines.
Post corn dog, we sat down on a bench and got to know some Iowans.
So give me like a number of state fair. How many of these have y'all been to?
second
This is your
one.
second one? Okay.
I wouldn't know. I've been to several. I sing with the military tribute concert at 4:30,
Oh, okay.
and so I've done that for probably 6 years. Yeah.
How has it changed over the years? And what's kind of it seems more people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're thinking about a New York Times audience who's never been to something like this, it seems like this holds a pretty big like place culturally in the state. How would you describe the state fair and what it means to Iowa?
Well, it's our tradition as far as farmers, cattlemen, people that raise hogs. That's the big thing, for Iowa, that's the Midwest.
Brings the country to the city so that they can learn what the country's all about. It's an opportunity to educate people on how our country really is, where we grow the crops and harvest them. We grow the animals, harvest them to whatever degree we need to. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't understand that. This helps understand that. It's important to the Iowa people because I think we're kind of left in the middle of the country, as they say. And they think that we're, I hate to say it, they think that we're uneducated. And I think this shows them that we are educated. Whether it's the right person that we pick or not, we're still educated and we still know how to voice our opinion.
Are you a Republican? Someone voting next year in the caucus?
I usually don't go to the caucuses, but I'm a Republican.
Are you a Republican?
I am a Republican.
Do you have any person who really sticks out to you when you look at this field? Someone who you want to be the nominee?
Yeah, I like Tim Scott.
Like Tim Scott? Cool.
Yeah, I like the answer, or what?
DeSantis.
Yeah, DeSantis. I like him.
He was here on Saturday.
I like Trump, but I think he's got too much garbage going on right now.
Talking about the indictments? What are you talking about? Okay. And what is it about that makes you think that it might be too much?
It's all negative, and I don't think we need to run this country on negativism. I think we need to start pulling out the positive and start making good decisions without the drama. And we do need to pull our positive people forward, the ones who really want to make a change and march forward, instead of going back 4 years ago to see what we can pull up out of the garbage to put somebody under indictments.
Yeah.
It's enough is enough.
As two people who are kind of skeptical of Trump again, if he is the nominee again, are you all in for the general election?
Vote for Biden. I'd write somebody in.
Yep, that's what I would be doing too, so my vote probably wouldn't count, but at least I did something about it.
I mean, I voted for Trump in 16 and 20, and I don't think I'd vote for him now.
You don't think you would vote for him now? It's just too much baggage?
Trump's antics, or what this woman might call drama, have recently made news in Iowa. Just days before, Trump had made a last-minute announcement that he would be attending the fair on the same day as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. When he arrived, he brought a group of Florida lawmakers who had endorsed him over DeSantis and spent just an hour or so at the fairgrounds. It was a move aimed at stealing the spotlight from his Republican rival, and it seemed to work, as Trump dominated headlines for days. But like our friends on the bench, we talked to plenty of Iowa Republicans who are growing sick of it all.
I think, I've got my opinions about the candidates who are running, and there's a lot of good ones, and there's some that have been good in the past, and I don't know for sure if they can be good in the future.
I think we might be talking about the same person, huh?
I think so.
I mean, I'm curious.
Their reasoning was familiar.
I think when it comes to what we're going to do in the end, I think we got to find somebody else.
I don't know, he just kind of comes along to me as a bully, trying to bully his way through. And yeah, he has ideas that are beneficial, probably, to different people and different groups. But yeah, it just kind of seems like it's his way or the highway.
I would prefer that he didn't run because of all of the baggage he's going to bring to the White House if he does win,
Especially after the recent string of criminal indictments.
Who did you caucus for last time?
Well, Trump, but I won't do that again.
Oh, you're not into Trump anymore.
Well, I think he's a good businessman. I'd like to see him in there for that, but you just can't go with his personality anymore and the things he's done, which I believe he's done. And
are you talking about the indictments?
Yeah.
So for you, you're looking.
Among the fairgoers who didn't like Trump, there was much less agreement on who they'd prefer instead. That was bad news for DeSantis, whose campaign apparatus had already invested heavily in Iowa. It seemed like it could be good news for the candidates other than DeSantis, like Nikki Haley and Senator Tim Scott, who were dutifully going all in on the traditional expectations of a candidate at the fair: the shaking of hands, the taking of selfies. I decided to focus on Scott, who at this point was still in the race and was participating in a forum with the state's Republican governor, Kim Reynolds.
I'm a Southern preacher wannabe, so I like to stand up and talk to the audience, get right close to you, you know what I mean? So it is not.
And while Scott was always a long shot, There were some aspects of his candidacy that stood out to me in Iowa.
I recognize that America is great because America is good.
He's relentlessly positive in his message for the country.
And the goodness of America can be found in the pages of our foundation, the Judeo-Christian foundation.
Deeply evangelical.
And I will tell you, as a kid that was as lost as a goose in a rainstorm, I found my faith in Jesus.
And nothing like Trump in terms of tone or style.
Give it up for Senator Tim Scott.
So since those are qualities often associated with Iowa, it felt worth asking these voters, why not Tim Scott or someone like him?
Hey, how's it going? My name's Scott. Yeah. This is Anna. We're from the New York Times. We're talking to people about the presidential primary and talking to Iowans about kind of who they prefer looking forward. I saw you just, shake Senator Tim Scott's hand. Do you have someone who, a candidate you're kind of interested in right now? You're trying to surveying the field.
Kind of surveying the field right now.
Mm-hmm. Did you caucus for anyone back in 2016?
Unfortunately, I caucused for Trump.
Unfortunately?
Yeah. He needs to go.
Oh, when did you feel like that?
Just look at the current media.
Totally understand that. I'm saying, was there a breaking point for you that you remember?
Probably January 6th.
January 6th? Mm-hmm. So did you vote for him in 2020?
I did.
Yeah. And January 6th, that felt like your breaking point. This could be kind of obvious, but what exactly about January 6th was your breaking point?
Well, it's supposed to be a peaceful transfer of power, but he refused to concede, even though it's clearly been proven there was absolutely no fraud in the election.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did that make you think differently just about Trump or about Republicans largely?
Just Trump.
Just Trump. You felt it was a Trump-specific problem. So when you look at this field of candidates, I'm guessing you're not looking at Trump, but there's some other options there too. Is there anybody who's at the top of your list of the other options?
Not particularly, just looking at the candidates in general to make a decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me if you could describe your perfect candidate. What qualities would they have?
Well, obviously the economy, national defense are probably the keys. Border security. Are they going to be professional? Or are they going to be like Trump and just interrupt and call people names and everything else? That's not how.
It seems like you're really sick of Trump's style, too, just overall. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting to me as someone who voted for him twice. He was loud and interrupting those first times, too.
Yeah, but we needed a change, and at that time, he was the person. But when he lost the election and refused to concede and then became disruptive, and it's pretty clear, the only way he's staying out of jail is if he wins the election. Otherwise, he's going to go to jail at some point.
What would it say about the Republican Party if he were still to become the nominee again? What would you do?
Not sure. I'm just hoping that's not the case because we need somebody else to lead the country besides him. Think about it. Even if he were to run, he's a lame duck. He's a 4 years and he's out. So what's he going to do other than executive order everything that Biden did? He'll change every executive order that Biden did, and then how's he going to work with the Senate and Congress that don't like him?
Yeah, I just want to go back to when you were talking about Trump, it seems like personality is also a big thing. Personality-wise, what are you looking for?
Well, they have to be sincere and caring. You can't dominate and belittle everybody that you talk to. And that's a Trump quality, is how can I belittle everybody?
I guess just to push on that, though, Trump was never humble. And so I guess what was about it at that time that was made you willing to look over it in 2016 and 2020?
The country needed a definite change. It needed a new direction. But again, once he lost the election, it's the peaceful transfer of power, and he wouldn't relinquish it. And now anybody that speaks against him, he just barrasses them with just anything and everything. He belittles them and he calls them names and everything else. It's like,
that's the thing about Tim Scott, too. He doesn't say a bad word about Donald Trump. And part of that is because a lot of Republicans have been penalizing people who really come out against Trump. Is there a way for these alternatives to really get past him if they won't talk about him?
Well, I think they're going to have to be more critical to him if they truly want to get the independents and other voters that are going to be swayed to come the direction. If you're going to just try and dance around the fact that I don't want to belittle or speak out against Trump because I don't want to upset his supporters, you're not going to win.
Yeah. If Trump is the nominee, you're not voting for him in the general election.
I probably won't vote for either individual then. I'll vote for the other candidates on the ballot, but I can't vote for Biden, and I couldn't vote for Trump again.
Because we thought that some people said, yeah, I don't like Trump, but for the means of getting Biden out, like kind of like what you said in 2016, we need to change. You're saying even that is not the same motivating factor for you anymore.
Yeah, it's just not.
Thank you so much. Hello. Do you have a person you're interested in when you think about the Republican caucus already?
No.
You feel open to the field?
Yeah. I'm going to go on the 26th. There's something up in Waterloo, and they're trying to get all the candidates to come and listen, so I'll go and listen.
Awesome. What about you? Do you have someone you're kind of leaning towards, or you feel really open?
I'm staying with Trump.
You're staying with Trump?
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that. Is that because of the other candidates, or you've been with Trump the whole way?
I've been with Trump the whole way. I think he is the strongest, what the Republican Party needs is strength. I like the other candidates. I like Tim Scott very well.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite there yet, but Trump is, I don't like some of the things he's done, but I think he's the one that can get us where we need to go first.
Can I ask some questions about that? When you say you don't think Scott is there yet, what do you mean?
I don't think he has quite the following or the strength that he needs yet. I think DeSantis has it. I think Trump has it. Scott is not there yet. Maybe the next election he would be more. He's great. He's a great candidate.
Maybe not as many people know his name yet or know about him.
But he has a different type of message than DeSantis or Trump, right? He doesn't really sound the same way. He's really trying to pitch a more inspirational message. I'm curious what you think about that piece.
I think we need that.
How does that lead back to Trump, someone who doesn't really talk like that?
Doesn't. What do you mean? Trump is not inspirational. No. He's a strong candidate he's a businessman. I don't know yet about Tim Scott. We've not had any experience with him. Tim Scott is a good Christian man. I don't know where Trump is. We need strength and we need smarts to get our country back to where it needs to be. And I think Trump can do it.
I like that explanation. You're like, you trust that Scott is a good Christian man. You're saying for you as a voter and kind of the priorities, the choices you're making now, there could be other things that also matter too.
For the next 4 years, we need somebody strong to handle what's going on around. Tim Scott is wonderful. I don't think he's quite there yet, strength-wise, to do what needs to be done with our country.
You trust that Trump has that strength?
I do. Yes.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Can I have where y'all are from?
Most of the Republicans we talked to largely liked the field of candidates. Scott, DeSantis, Haley, even Ramaswamy.
What would you say to the idea that maybe someone else is better suited than Donald Trump to be the Republican?
I don't think there is. I think he's the man. He tells it how it is. You know, there's no pussy. I'm sorry.
No, you can say it. This is audio. You can say what you want.
Pussyfooting around on this shit. You know, he tells it how it is. You know, and I think there's corruption in both parties. You know,
but there was a clear gap in enthusiasm between fans of the other Republican candidates and the voters who supported Trump.
I'm 70 years old. I think he's the best president that we've ever had in my lifetime. The Democrats are doing everything they can do to keep him. They think this is going to keep him from running and being elected. And I think it just increases people like myself's resolve to vote for President Trump.
Do you feel like,
Back in 2016, Trump voters said they felt silenced, scared of openly supporting a candidate who was an outsider within the party. Now, it's the opposite. Trump Republicans are calling the shots, and they'll tell anyone who'll listen. More after the break. When Iowans go to caucus on January 15th, they'll be participating in a unique political ritual. While most Americans vote in a booth, Iowans, depending on where they live, go to small gatherings at school gymnasiums, churches, local fire stations, to vote in a caucus, where they'll hear a pitch from the candidate's local supporters. This process helps explain why presidential candidates are so willing to engage in the retail politics that Iowa loves, because it incentivizes the candidates to make connections with state and local officials who could advocate for them in the caucus. So after the fair, I went to another political event.
Okay. You want to tell us where we're going while you're driving?
We are driving to Story County, which is a county outside of Des Moines, Iowa, which is hosting a fundraising dinner tonight that is going to feature Senator Tim Scott. So again, one of the classic campaign stops as a way to pitch yourself to the party faithful. For everyone here at this thing, they're going to be caucus goers. They're going to be people who are here because they are trying to suss out the candidates, and they're here because they think they have a real vital role to play in terms of, kicking off the nomination process.
Right.
The dinner was at one of those old barns that's been converted into an event space. It was surrounded by corn stalks for as far as I could see. Inside, a few dozen people were seated at long, banquet-style tables with white tablecloths. And when it was time for the event to start, the guests were invited to participate in an opening prayer.
Please stand with me.
It was unlike any I'd ever heard, and I've heard a lot of prayers.
Father, we thank you that we can come together as free Americans, as free Iowans, and Lord, help us to never take for granted the freedoms and liberties that we do have. Lord, we thank you for our founding fathers that founded this country based on religious freedom, personal freedoms. Lord, help us to realize that our nation is at a tipping point, that people on the left literally hate you, they hate your word, they many times hate our country, and Lord, help us to be ever vigilant. And we thank you so much, even for the veiled blessing maybe of COVID, when a lot of parents began to understand what their kids were being exposed to in the public schools. Lord, we pray that we might do our part, that we might witness to others about your love for us and our country, and we also pray that we might network to spread that message of freedom and liberty to everybody around us. So thank you for our food, nourish our body's use. All these things we ask in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
A few minutes later, Senator Scott took the stage.
So I believe that if we just went back to common sense conservatism, we'll have another American century. This is not that complicated. We've got some serious problems in our nation. But with an optimistic, positive approach, anchored in conservatism, with a strong backbone, we will have another American century. God bless you. I'm happy to answer some questions.
The juxtaposition between the prayer and Scott's positive message helped me get closer to understanding what's different in Iowa this time. And I wanted to talk to some guests who had come to this dinner and had heard both messages.
Are y'all from Story County?
Yes, we're
Okay.
from Ames.
You're from Ames?
Yep.
So how long have you been involved with the Story County Republican Party?
Since
1965.
Since I retired, she was in Iowa legislature.
Oh, okay. When? What years?
87 to 2002.
To 2002. Okay. You've seen probably a lot of presidential candidates come through, too.
Oh, yeah.
How do you all make those kind of decisions? How do you all do your homework to decide who to caucus for in the end?
I was known for doing the background work when I was in the legislature. Just recently, we were at a Republican meeting, women's meeting, and this lady came over to talk to me about what it was like when I was in the legislature. Mm-hmm. And my former secretary was sitting by me, and she said, "I'll tell you what it was like when she was there." And I thought, uh-oh, what am I going to hear? And she said, if a vote came up and every Republican voted yes and Teresa voted no, there'd be 15 people at the desk immediately saying, "What do you know that I don't know?" Because I did the research on every bill.
She did her homework.
Yeah, she did her homework. Well, you're the right person to talk to then, huh? I mean, when you look at Tim Scott in there, when you look at this Republican field, what's your homework telling you?
I have respected Tim Scott for a long time. Mm-hmm. I have respected him, the way he grew up, what he has become. I'm very proud of him. Mm-hmm. He's one of the people that I am considering. Mm-hmm. But I haven't done all my homework yet.
Okay, so you're still kind of looking through the field.
Yes,
when you look back at the last caucus in 2016, can I ask who you all caucused for in 2016?
I caucused for Trump.
You caucused for Trump?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I did too.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's back. Mm-hmm. How do you factor that in? And are you someone who's thinking about caucusing for him again? Is that kind of where your vote is, you feel?
Definitely.
How do you...
I would love
Go
to
ahead.
see Tim Scott as his VP. And then when Trump is out, Scott slides right into the presidency.
Tell me why you see that as the combination you want rather than Scott at the top of the ticket.
Let me say this. Trump knows where all the bodies are buried right now.
You're the second, maybe third person to say that exact phrase to me today.
He didn't know that much the first time around. He does now. He does now, and he's going to clean house. He's going to do it up right this time. He was a little naive the first time around. He didn't do what he should have done to clean it out, but he had incoming arrows day after day after day after day, and he tried, but they were after him, and they were bound and determined to make him fail, and he still got a lot done, and they're still after him. He's still standing, and he's coming back for more.
I will say I'm 85 years old. I don't think we ever had a better economy than we had under Trump. But I would like to have someone who I respected, who didn't do and say some of the things he doesn't say as my president. And I think there are other people who would do the right thing also.
Is there anything specific? Are we talking about the indictments? Are we talking about his personal conduct? What is it about what he does and says that you think this time around you're looking for somebody else?
I don't like a lot of the things he says about people. You need to respect other people, especially if you're in that position.
Yeah.
And I would like to have him be more kind to people, whether he likes them or not.
It's curious. I'm going to ask you that question because...
They're not kind to him. There's only so much you can take before you start fighting back, and that's what he's doing.
Someone like Tim Scott makes his faith, says his kind of personal conviction, his personal role modelness as a reason that he should be president, as a reason that him being in that office would be important. You resonate with those qualities. You seem like you like kind of all of those.
I think him and Trump would be a good fit. He's a solid conservative, and like I said, it is so bad right now that we need somebody in there that's just going to bull in a china shop, clean it up. And as soon as Trump has had his 4 years, Tim Scott slides right in.
It sounds like I kind of hear you saying that you hear what he's offering and you like it. Yeah. You just have a different priority right now. Tim Scott describes his message as inspiration, as hope. That's through his faith. That's through his story as a Black son coming up with a single mother and kind of what opportunities he was able to get. If you could describe what Trump's message is, what is it? If I know that Tim Scott's is inspiration and hope, it seems like Trump's is different. What's Trump promising that is resonating with you?
He loves this country. He always has. He says, I will fight every day of my life for this country.
He's promising a fight.
And we are in a fight. We are in a war. We are in a war. Whether we want to believe it or not, this country's in trouble.
What are the sides of the war?
Yeah, what makes you?
We are fighting for our children. The education in this country is deplorable. And I think this latest movie, The Sound of Freedom, has exposed big time what's going on with Hollywood, pedophilia, trafficking, and we're not stopping it.
And so I see what you're saying. So because of these kind of existential threats, because of this war, the answer
the morality of our country
1 + 1 = Trump.
Deteriorated horribly. We're not the country that we should be or were or was. And it's got to stop. We're on a slippery slope.
When we go to Democrats, they'll say that, they feel like this is a really kind of war time. War isn't the language they would use, but this is a really existential moment for the country too, a real crossroads moment. It seems like both sides are in agreement that the stakes of this election are really, really, really high. What feels unclear is that, somebody's going to lose here, and both sides say they think if they lose, the country's gone.
If we don't get control, we are going to be a socialist nation. That's the direction we are headed. And I'm very, very concerned about that.
Do you feel that?
existential about this moment?
I'd like to go back to the 50s. Those were the perfect years. I know. Everybody dressed perfectly. They acted perfectly. You didn't hear naughty words. I'd like us to go back to that, when moms stayed in the home and raised their children. That's part of our problem today, is that we don't have families raising their children, and then they go to school and the teachers can't do anything with them, and that's why we've got a lot of the problems we have today.
Yeah. Do you worry about the tone any? Like, if people feel this afraid, if Trump is, we just heard him in South Carolina, he's promising his fight back. Do you worry about, like, what this kind of could mean in terms of a kind of vitriolic election year, or is that?
Oh, it's going to get nasty. It's going to get nasty.
It reminds me of something a woman told me earlier today at the state fair. And I was asking her about Tim Scott, and she said, he's a good Christian man, and I like that. But right now I'm worried about strength. And she was going to vote for Donald Trump because what she was really prioritizing, more than values, more than personal conviction, was she wanted someone who she felt could fight back.
Take the reins and go with it.
If Trump's the nominee, as someone who is looking at the alternatives, if he's the nominee, are you still voting for him?
Oh, yes. I'll vote Republican. I sure want to get rid of the Democrats that we have and what they're doing.
I appreciate your time. I really appreciate you talking with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you tell me your name? So Trump may not quote scripture or exude positivity, but he will go to battle. And in the midst of a supposed holy war, that's all that matters. Next week, I'm still in Iowa, but this time at a country music concert. That's the run-up for Thursday, December 21st, 2023. And now, the rundown.
How stunning is this decision?
Well, Wolf, this is a historic decision. It's a momentous decision.
Donald Trump's campaign is vowing to appeal after the Colorado Supreme Court ruled to disqualify him from the state's primary ballot. The decision says Trump is ineligible for the White House, citing the 14th Amendment, which bars from office anyone who engages in insurrection.
As the Supreme Court itself says, they are in uncharted territory here, but it's really important to keep in mind, this is not the last word here. This is almost certainly going up to the U.S. Supreme Court, which can review the decisions of a state Supreme Court. In fact,
the Colorado decision puts immense pressure on the Supreme Court to hear the case, and fast, as a broad ruling could influence similar suits against Trump in other states. And with less than a month till the Iowa caucuses, the remaining Republican primary candidates are in crunch time.
Ron DeSantis has lied in every one of his commercials.
Nikki Haley is hosting 10 town halls this week alone.
But I'll say this, if you've got to go out and tell lies about someone to win, you don't deserve to win. It's that simple.
DeSantis, in the meantime, continues to crisscross the state as part of his aggressive push for support ahead of the caucuses. And Joe Biden's approval rating dropped 2 points from where it was in July, down to 37%. That's according to new polling from the New York Times and Siena College. Trump, meanwhile, leads Biden 46 to 44% among registered voters nationwide. Finally, at the Iowa State Fair, Elisa, Anna, and I ate 3 orders of cheese curds, a foot-long corn dog, 1 turkey leg, a pork tenderloin sandwich bigger than my head, and at least 1 bacon-wrapped rib on the stick. There are 3 weeks and 4 days till the Iowa caucuses, and 320 days till the general election. We'll see you next week. The Run-Up is reported by me, Ested Herndon, and produced by Elisa Gutierrez, Caitlin O'Keefe, and Anna Foley. It's edited by Rachel Dry, Lisa Tobin, and Franny Kartoff, with original music by Dan Powell, Marian Lozano, Pat McCusker, Diane Wong, and Elishaba Itu. It was mixed by Sophia Landman and fact-checked by Caitlin Love. Special thanks to Paula Schumann, Sam Dolnick, Larissa Anderson, David Halfinger, Mahima Chablani, Renan Borelli, Jeffrey Miranda, and Maddie Masiello. If you have questions about the 2024 election, we're working on a new Q&A segment, and we want to hear from you. Email us at therunup@nytimes.com. And finally, if you like the show and want to get updates on our latest episodes, follow our feed wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening, y'all.